So just some background about myself. So I'm Jakob Hoydis. I'm actually a researcher. I have a PhD in telecommunications. And after a couple of years of industry experience, I decided to quit my former company to create a startup, which is called Spraed. So we founded the company in October 2013 with François Mériot. And today I'm responsible essentially for all development, backend, and the website, but I don't touch the mobile apps. So I'm responsible for everything else. The outline of my talk is as follows. First of all, I would like to present you quickly Spraed. What is this app? What can you do with it? It's not a pitch. It's more like to give you an idea what are the functions which are enabled by SyncGateway and Couchbase Lite. Then I will present you our entire architecture and how Couchbase fits in there. Then I will speak a bit about SyncGateway and a couple of things I would have liked to know before we started to develop. I would speak some challenges we faced and how we solved them. And I draw a couple of conclusions after almost a year of daily work with Couchbase. Okay, so if you're interested, you can either download our app on the iTunes, on the Play Store, on the App Store. Then you can participate in the live demo, or you go simply on Spraed.net. To give you a very brief motivation for Spraed, simply based on this observation. The average social network user in the States receives every day around 54,000 words of information. That's a lot. That's actually like the equivalent of a small novel. And simply too much that any human is able to process this on a daily basis. And so the question we actually ask is, if you would like to announce something, how can you be sure that people hear actually what you want to tell them? And on the one hand, there are now many big data startups who say, okay, let's put some machine learning on this. There's so much information that's interesting. Let's try to extract what would be actually interesting for a specific human. But we think, we say, do something much more simple and natural. And we actually believe that those things which matter are the things we speak with our friends about when we meet them. So Spraed is an app for sharing of digital content, but in real life, with people you meet, like me and you, okay? So it's actually an app for iOS and Android and a website. And the digital contents you can share, we call them spreads. And they look actually like a mini website. So it can be a title, an image. You have an address, phone number. Soon you can have also videos and multiple picture galleries. And you can also have as many attachments as you want. So this could be, for example, like a virtual business card of a restaurant in Paris, or this is an article of a blogger who wants to publish his blogs on Spraed. The cool thing about Spreads is you have them always on your phone with you. And during a discussion, when you meet someone, you can simply share it with the person you meet by generating a QR code. So you generate a QR code on your screen, and the person you're facing only needs to scan it. So you can either scan it with a button on the bottom right in the app, so there's an integrated scanner, or you use any other scanner you have on your phone available. Okay? Each time you exchange something with someone, you will actually collect his or her profile. So this means you know with whom you have exchanged what. And each time you exchange a spread, the score is increased. So it's similar like when you retweet something, the score increases. When you share something on Facebook, the number of reshares increases. With Spraed, simply the score. The number of times it has been shared in real life increases. So it's another measure of popularity, but this time in real life. Or in other words, we try to measure word of mouth. You can also keep track with whom you have shared was. So you know, okay, I gave this content to this person. You can also have a look at where and when did you do it. And you can also see, of course, when other people share the contents you have created, because it's interesting. Right now, I've presented to you how you can share like a content one-to-one. So you needed to generate a QR code for every person I meet, and I need to present it. The other person needs to scan it. It's not so useful if I would, for example, like to share content with all of you in this room. That's why we have introduced a new feature, which is called, we call it planting of spreads. So I can plant a spread at the current location, and this makes it available to everyone around me. So you can actually, I will do a demo later, so you can see how it works. So when you generate a QR code, you can simply click on the Plant Spread button, and then you make it available to everyone. Actually, to discover spreads which have been planted, you can either do this through our app, or you go simply on the website Spraed.net around me. We will geolocate your browser, and you will see like a flag with all the shared contents you have. Okay. So here I've actually two smartphones, and I'm logged in with two different user accounts. So one is, I'm logged in with my account, and the other one is Francois, the co-founder of Spraed. And first thing you see, you have your own profile. You can have a status and some personal information about you. It's like a small business card. And you can see the history of the last exchanges you've done, to whom did you give which content and where. And you discover spreads which are around you. We come to this later. Then you have a list of all the contents you have with you. So they are stored on Couchbase Lite on the phone, so I even can access them when I'm offline, so I have no internet connection. And for example, I created a spread for my presentation today. So here you see a picture, the abstract of my talk, and I added a PDF, like the PDF of my slides. And if I want to share this now to Francois, I simply generate a QR code. So with this phone, I will scan the QR code. And if the Wi-Fi is not too bad, I should have it. Exactly. So now I've received the content on the phone. It's now saved on my phone. I can, for example, I could access the slides if I wanted. Okay. Now I was mentioning the feature of like planting a spread. So I do this now. I will plant a spread. Now in the app, I go on spreads to discover. And you see the first spread I see are my presentation slides at a distance of 11 meters. So you actually can walk around and see where did people plant information. That's a quite cool feature. Okay. One thing which I would like to showcase, maybe this is where really SyncGateway kicks in. For example, if I edit my own profile, and I go on the, like with Francois' account, I have a look at my own profile. If I now edit it, I will add an exclamation mark. It's already there, okay? That's what SyncGateway does. There's one last thing I would like to show you is the website. And for example, without being logged in, I simply go on around me. Yeah, I was correctly located. I could now access also the content. And now it's a bit like Pinterest. If I would like to get this content, add it to my account, I could simply collect it. But of course, this is not, since you can browse essentially public spreads which have been planted somewhere, this doesn't correspond to an exchange in real life, so this won't increase the score. Okay, let's have a look at our architecture. So we have actually front end, back end. I will go to all of these bricks one by one. It won't take long. Okay. So as I said earlier, we have an iOS and an Android app. But we haven't developed them natively. We use like Accelerator's Titanium framework. So this is actually, we write everything in JavaScript. Titanium compiles this in native Objective-C and Java code. And this gives us these two apps. So that's why, since we use Titanium, we can't use Couchbase Lite directly. So we use like a wrapper, which is called TTouchDB. And we use like TTouchDB and SyncGateway to permanently synchronize all the the data to which a user had access. Our website is developed based on Angular. And we actually, to display data, we don't use SyncGateway directly, but we go through a Node.js JSON API. So this is where we get directly the data model we want. But there's something we introduced like a week ago, so it's not in production. Rather than pushing information with Socket.io to the website, we now listen to the changes feed of SyncGateway. So each time relevant data changes, also the browser can listen to it, knows when something relevant changes, we detect what exactly did the change correspond to, and then updates the data model with a HTTP request. We could also use PouchDB. I wanted to speak about this later, but we don't do this right now. Right now, we only listen to the changes feed to get informed whenever something relevant happens. All of our static file, all images, attachments, videos, whatsoever, they are not stored in Couchbase. They are stored on Amazon. and can be accessed through CloudFront. We have a single point of entry to our backend. So it's everything is in the Amazon cloud. And we have only 2 ports. One is our API port, and we have 1 port for SyncGateway. And this is where the SSL encryption terminates. So everything behind this will be non-encrypted traffic. So we have 1 cluster of Node.js nodes. So it's an auto-scaling group which adapts to the load. And this is where I can display all the spreads to which I have access to. I can get the list of all the profiles, etc. And in Node.js, we use actually the Couchbase and Elasticsearch SDKs to get access to views, etc. And this is important. All data we write to SyncGateway passes through the Node.js cluster. So a mobile phone, when I update my profile, I will never write it directly to the SyncGateway port. We do all validation in Node.js, and then you see admin REST API to write data to SyncGateway. So then we have another cluster of SyncGateway nodes. So we use them only to push changes to the phones. So if something changes, we push it to the phones. And as I said, everything passes first through our Node.js API. So SyncGateway communicates, of course, with a Couchbase cluster, which is also independently scalable. We have 1 bucket, which is entirely managed by SyncGateway. We have another bucket, which is replicated to Elasticsearch via the Couchbase transport plugin. And we have another bucket, which is neither related to Elasticsearch nor to SyncGateway. This is for confidential user data. Of course, we have used Couchbase replicas to kind of redundantly store our data, but we also do daily backups to Glacier of Amazon. Since we can't do geospatial queries with Couchbase at the moment, we could maybe with Nickel, but at the time when we developed these features, wasn't ready yet. So we use Elasticsearch for geospatial queries and for full-text search, or everything which doesn't require an exact result, but rather like something related to a score. And we have a last ingredient, this is actually a Redis session store. We use this still for Socket.io, to get publish, subscribe, subscription, but actually I think we will get rid of Redis very soon, because when you can also use Couchbase as a mem-cached session store. And as I said earlier, we will use the changes feed to listen to changes, so we don't need to manually detect what has changed with Node.js and then push via Socket.io's info to the web server. Okay? Okay, so the cool thing about this architecture is that every single component can be scaled independently, vertically, or horizontally. And this was important for us because we didn't have any data of how many nodes do we need for SyncGateway, what are resources necessary, etc. So here, with a very fine granularity, we can change whatever we want. We can change the instances, have more, have less. We don't know. It's very robust with respect to node failures. We have only 1 point of entry. Thanks to SyncGateway, we have this real-time data synchronization to the mobile apps and our websites. And because we have Couchbase Lite, you have the data actually to display the contents profiles on your phone available with you even offline, so you don't need an internet connection. And it's very important because quite often, people, for example, they scan something in for example, in the metro, in the tube. If there would be a poster with a QR code, you would scan it. Normally, you don't have any internet connection, so you would store this information in Couchbase Lite, and you get it, and then you would synchronize the data as soon as you have an internet connection. Or if I would like to generate a QR code to share something with someone, I don't need an internet connection to generate this QR code. Okay, now I would like to speak a bit about a simplified version of our document model and some intricacies related to SyncGateway. To make things very simple, you have seen essentially 2 types of documents. We have user profiles and we have spreads. Okay? User profile is simply my name with all my contact information, and a spread will be all the meta information you actually need to display as spreads. As I said, images and attachments, they won't be stored in Couchbase. We will get them later via a URL from CloudFront. Okay? And the role of SyncGateway is simply to make sure that every user on his whatever mobile device he has always the most current recent version of each of these documents to which he has access to. So you have version control, and you have also access control. These 2 things are managed by SyncGateway. As I said, we only use SyncGateway to push information, everything which is new, but the user will never write like updates of a document through SyncGateway. Okay? So we only have a continuous one-way replication. Every document we will now write to SyncGateway through the REST admin API will first of all go through the sync function. And the sync function, so will be applied to every document we save to SyncGateway, and has two main tasks. The first thing is to map documents to channels and to map users, give users access to specific channels. So this combination of user access rights and channels make actually sure that the user has only access rights to the documents he should have. In the sync function, you could also validate documents, make sure that an address field has the right format, etc. But this is not something we use. You do all the validation in Node.js, and then once we are sure that the data we want to write to SyncGateway is correct, we write it, but SyncGateway doesn't validate anything afterwards. Okay. There are two important design considerations for us. And this is very important. The information of which user has access to which document is confidential. So we don't, if I have access to a particular spread, I cannot store the information of which user has access to the spread in the document itself. And the second consideration is we can also delete contents or withdraw access rights. And these changes must be also replicated to Couchbase Lite. So if I delete the document or a user loses access rights, it must disappear from Couchbase Lite on the phone. And these are two things I would have liked to know earlier. This is the sync function can only change properties of the current document. So you cannot have a document which would actually map other documents to specific channels. So you couldn't have one document for each user which would have a list of all the documents to which user had access to. Oh, you couldn't have a document with a list of other documents to which a specific user has access to, and then tell the SyncGate function, hey, map these documents to the user's channel. So this is not possible. And the second thing is that if a user loses access to the channel, Couchbase Lite will not delete the corresponding documents. So once I have a document on Couchbase Lite, if I lose access to the channel which gave the document to me, Couchbase Lite won't delete it. I will just stop to get updates of the document. Okay? And so for this reason, I think we did a workaround. I don't know if it's the best one. Maybe there are better ways to do it. So we introduced a third document type, which we call a content document. And this kind of acts as the glue between user accounts and documents. So essentially, for every document to which a user has access to, there will be one content document which will give the content to a specific user ID. And also contains a field which is called deleted by user. And this, I will show you later how we do it. This will actually inform Couchbase Lite or our app which document should be deleted, so we can do this manually. Okay, let's have a look at the sync function for these three document types. The first thing is we look at the ID of the document and then switch according to the document type. So they can be profiles, spreads, or content documents. We will have one channel per profile and one channel per spread. Okay? By default, a user will get access to her own profile. So this is what the first line tells you. So you map a profile to a specific channel, which has simply the ID of the user, and directly the user will get access to this channel. And the same with the spread, it simply will be mapped to a channel which has essentially the ID of the content. Now the interesting part happens when you look at the content document. So this will actually give the user access to a profile or a spread, yeah? Because this is what happens here. So you map the content document to the user channel, and you will give, later you see it, the access, you give the user ID access to this corresponding content, okay? And also there's the deleted property. If it changes, if it's not deleted, we will actually withdraw the access rights to the user, but the property has changed. So the content document itself, even if a document gets deleted, stays in the user's channel. So he has still access to it, although he doesn't have access to the document itself anymore. Now I would like to present you two workflows, what actually happens when a user scans a QR code and when a user deletes a spread. So when we scan a QR code with the app, we inform Node.js, hey, I've received a new content. Node.js will create a new content document for this user and the specific document, and we will write it through in SyncGateway through the SyncGateway REST API. Now, the sync function will grant access rights. So we will give the user access to the content document and the document itself. These will get replicated to Couchbase Lite. Our mobile app is listening what is new, so there's a changes listener. And once we have received the document, we can simply display it and update our data model. There's one problem we were facing, and this happens frequently when you have a bad network connection or with a specific mobile operator. So actually the time until a document gets replicated can take like half a second, sometimes it's a second. This is something we can't predict. This is something we have never seen in development, but we see it in production. Normally when I'm on the train in Paris, it happens that I scan something, but it takes a second or two until I actually get the document itself. And this is not nice in terms of a user experience, because when you scan something, you want to have the content as quickly as possible. So we had a workaround. What we actually do is, once I get the response from the server that my scan was actually valid, I directly get the corresponding document with the HTTP GET requests. So this is in some conditions much faster than waiting for the replication. So this would be the flow. So once the sync function, so once we have written the document successfully to SyncGateway, we actually get a positive response from the server. And at this point, we directly ask the document to display it, and we don't wait until our app has detected that there was a change. Now I'd like to speak about the workflow. This was the second problem when a user deletes a spread. So you need to keep in mind that you could be logged into multiple devices, an iPad, an iPhone, a website, etc. And actually, if I delete a document or a user loses access to a document, we must be sure that it gets deleted everywhere. You don't want to have the experience that there's one phone which has deleted and the others don't. Okay? So you need to make sure that it's everywhere disappears. So as we said, if I simply withdraw the access rights through SyncGateway, it won't delete anything. It will simply stop sending us updates. Okay, so we need to make sure that all phones, the next time they get internet access, will be informed you need to delete a specific document from your internal database. So we do this through this content document. Essentially, a user will, for example, delete a spread. In the content document, we will update the field deleted by user. Set it simply to true. Now the sync function will first of all withdraw the access rights, but these are only the access rights of the document to which the content document relates, but not the content document itself. So this means the user will get the updated content document, and this will happen to all devices as soon as they log in. So every device which was logged in will get this updated content document, and they will be informed, hey, the document has been deleted by the user. Now the app will delete the corresponding document from the internal database, but here's the problem that the content document remains, of course, in the channel of the user. So over time, you will accumulate more and more content documents of deleted spreads. This is not nice. And for the moment, we don't have a very elegant solution to this problem. So what we currently do is we keep track manually on how many devices a user has been logged in. And then each time the app will delete the content from the database, we increment the counter. And once the counter has reached the number of devices to which the data has been synchronized, we will actually remove the content document from the user channel. But the problem we have is you still in your Couchbase Lite database, you will still accumulate these content documents which are not useful for anything. But the next time user, for example, will log in and log out again, these will disappear because the database will be emptied. But this is an artifact we have. And for the moment, we don't have a better solution. Maybe if someone has one, I'm a taker. OK. Yeah, that's already the end of my talk. And I would give you some conclusions, like after a year with Couchbase Lite and SyncGateway. So what is really great about SyncGateway, it's incredibly powerful to manage like fine-grained access rights. So for every document, you can say which user has access to it. And you have this live synchronization which pushes data to as many devices as you want in real time. So if I, for example, if I change a spread, change a description, I add a new attachment, whatever, it will be synchronized to everyone in the world at the same time. And this is something incredibly powerful we could have never developed ourselves. Secondly, it's very, very easy to get started. So I think setting up Couchbase and SyncGateway takes 5 minutes, and understanding the sync function is, I don't know, it's really easy. So there's not much, really not much to understand. It's well documented, so getting started is very easy. And a great feature about Couchbase Lite is that we have an app which is fully functional even offline. So I have all the content stored on my phone when I need them. So it's very useful. And lately, I mean, we had, of course, many questions. And the good thing is that the Google group is very active. So when you post a question, I think each time I had the answer within the next, I don't know, not even 24 hours, like 12 hours. And you have directly the developers which will reply. So this was always very helpful. Of course, there are some things which are not so good, but actually one point disappeared from this list. I think the main problem we had is really that we had like unpredictable replication delays in some networks, and some with some mobile phone operators. So it simply takes a second or two from a user experience. This is not acceptable. And we don't actually know where it comes from. We are now setting up tests and trying to measure actually what's the difference between the response time of an HTTP request and until the replication gets through. And this means we use SyncGateway today only to update uncritical data in the background. So when I change my profile, I don't care if the image will get replicated in 1 second or 10. This is not critical for me. And we have also experienced that the replication was blocked in certain networks while standard HTTP requests passed. But after some further consideration, we thought, okay, this cannot be true, because if you don't have a WebSocket for SyncGateway, it will fall back like to HTTP long poll, which is a simple HTTP request. So the network operator cannot make a difference. And I think, I'm almost 100% sure what happened is that the SyncGateway port was blocked by the operator. So we used the 8080 for the SyncGateway port. And I think in some networks this is simply blocked. And so we should have thought about this earlier, but I think this is the reason. And so one workaround would be, of course, to do like a path-based load balancer, which we could have like a path which is called SyncGateway, which was routed to our SyncGateway cluster. But we can't do this with the elastic load balancer of Amazon. So you can't do path-based routing. So right now we want to avoid to use like an Nginx proxy to do this. So right now we stick to this solution. But I just tell you, this is my experience. So if you need to open 2 ports to support like an API port and a SyncGateway port, think about which port you choose and make sure that it works under the conditions where you want to use it. So that's not a SyncGateway problem, that's actually our problem, but I discovered this last week. And the third point is Couchbase gives us great speed for queries. So getting data from the memory is incredibly fast. So all our requests are like a couple of milliseconds, not more. But we can't do like complex queries. As I said, geospatial queries don't work. Full text search, Couchbase is not done for this. So all requests which are not exact, but will give you like results based on a score, for example, you can't do it. So that's why we use the like this Elasticsearch plugin. So we have one bucket. Every change in this bucket will get directly replicated to Elasticsearch, which will index the document, and we can access it. So this works very well, but right now we can't do it with Couchbase. That's the end of my talk. Some of you would like to discuss with me later. One question I'm actually asking myself is there an interest in using Nickel, given that we have already Elasticsearch up and running? Because I think I'm not aware of any feature which you could do with Elasticsearch which Nickel can do, but maybe I'm wrong. Secondly, right now we don't use bucket shadowing to separate Couchbase server and SyncGateway. So bucket shadowing means essentially we have one bucket, and all data we will write into this bucket must go through SyncGateway. If you would write it via Couchbase, kind of the internal logic of SyncGateway would get messed up. It wouldn't work anymore. But sometimes actually to get greater speed, you would like to have access through Couchbase to the bucket you're working with. And that's why you have actually 2 buckets, and they are both sides replicated in real time. But I have one bucket which is managed by Couchbase and one bucket which is managed by SyncGateway. And lastly, and this is a quite cool feature, is a database called PouchDB. And you can, for example, you could use this like Couchbase Lite in your browser. You have a browser, like a database in your browser, and you can replicate your database. And so when a user logs in, it's much faster when he has already downloaded the data. And you're also, as soon as the document changes, everything happens automatically. You can detect changes and update your data model. So I think it's quite cool feature. We haven't used it yet. We just listen to the changes feed of SyncGateway. Another thing you can do with Spraed is, as you've seen, I had this spread created for my slides. If you're interested and you would like, you could scan it. You can download these QR codes also from our website. That's the end of my talk. I would be happy to discuss with you later. And if you're interested, create an account, download the app, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.